I'd like to talk about what is the main impediment for realizing your true nature, what's standing in the way of your own awakening, and why it's put into time. And that is what has everything to do with fear, fear of letting go into the unbounded, into the vastness, the vastness that we really are from a contracted, separate self sense, the idea of being a self, being an I, letting go into universal nature where the I is not even true is a process. And that's why it's a spiritual journey and that's why it's put into time. Okay. And the more that one can let go and surrender and lean back into the unbounded, into your own being, the more that you are that and can then live it, okay? And that has everything to do with your own state of readiness, okay? And you can't manufacture readiness as much as one would like. And so that's why Ramana said that there were these different types of aspirant spiritual seekers that would come to him. And the first type was able to wake up like the fastest possible tinder in a fire, just, and that had to do with just the sacred silence of presence and the transmission of silence that was radiating through him. And the one that was the spiritual aspirant that was most ready in themselves, okay, through lifetimes, through this life, whatever the reason, and was most available, the least offended to the impact of reality, would realize their true nature just through silence. And then from there, he went to, well, then the next level would be, I'm going to give them an inquiry. I'm going to give the mind something to eat, something to land on. Who am I? Who am I? Another way to put it would be, what is this? What is this? And that would propel one into the unknown, just like if you really, really go to it and you maybe even exhaust your idea of where it's supposed to bring you, it lands you exactly in the unbounded reality, right? That doesn't have a fixated sense of self, that is just unbound. And so that was the next level. And then another level would be to get some spiritual teaching, something to really help the mind and body rest, and not be so fearful, because it all has to do with letting go. And what is keeping one from letting go? It all has to do with fear. And so it's a training ground over time, the spiritual journey of relaxing that fixated sense of self, that conditioned self that narrows down into a pinprick of an idea, that there really is a separate somebody here, and that there comes a natural maturation point where that is being seen through by the universal self. It says, okay, that's enough of that. Satisfaction is not being found here in the world, and in believing in a separate somebody is just causing suffering. Okay, so then this kind of innate readiness happens um, over time. Even if one is young and realizes the self, the true self, who knows what kind of preparation's been done. And so the separate self sense is a contracted, fixated point of view, and teaching it and just learning how to relax that and step back and lean into the unbounded, eternal, vast space of the undifferentiated being. It takes a trust, it takes a letting go, it takes relaxing. And it takes, and all that is putting down, setting down fear. And that's why oftentimes for people throughout time, having a teacher or a practice or a tradition that where you feel held and supported as Sangha, to where you see that there's a training ground and you see that letting go, there's context for it and it's safe. And look at the teacher, they're okay. And look at the lineage, they were all okay. And so there's something to be said. I'm not saying it has to be that way because I didn't come from a tradition per se, but I definitely benefited from my trust in those who let go to the degree of the universal nature presenting itself and the love affair that led to that, because it's not just trust, it's also leaning into something that you love more than something that leads you out of the trance of separation, that makes you feel this allegiance to the collective dream, something you love more, something you want more. You're dedicated, your sincerity, and so in truth, as Ramana says, and so many have said too, probably in their way, the spiritual journey and realization all has to do with readiness. And some might say then the grace takes place when there's readiness. The grace has space to come in and present itself and reveal itself because there's an openness, there's an opening there. When fear is relaxed, which you can't manufacture that relaxing, right? But it's through these different dedicated practices, including your love. And also, I want to say that the maturation also includes defeat, just running out of juice and energy for the things of the world. The things of the world where we have placed our belief that it's going to give us what we're looking for. Um, Even within relationships, which can be beautiful, that they're going to fill this hole up inside. Nothing is going to fulfill and fill the space that where the true self is meant to be awoken to. Nothing is going to fill that hole. Right. So there's a maturation that comes out of also defeat, meaning where you finally stop, sincerely stop, and cannot look anymore because you're done looking. Then the grace can come in. And fear is set aside at that moment too, because there's no more energy to even have fear be in the way, because fear is something that is a way of stopping the progression and saying, that's enough presence that's coming in, or enough bliss, or enough emptiness, whatever way it's showing itself. We put a cap on it, and that's the doer, the contraction of the separate self, imagining it needs to that that the extinguishment of it is the end of oneself. Really, it's just the birth into wholeness, into the universal. And it's always been what's there and in the background and always true. And we know that. That's why we go on the spiritual journey. What is drawing us on the spiritual journey is truth. It knows. And life can be trusted to help guide you, help guide you. The Satguru, the inner knower, is here to help guide you home. The wisdom of that. So fear is the most major player, and it shows up in all kinds of ways for sort of limiting the expression of one's true self and having it bloom and reveal itself. And that's the dance. And that is really a spiritual journey, is this dance with letting go, learning how to lean more and more into trusting what being nobody is about and how it feels. It feels great. at some point it tips over, and that's really more and more all you want. And then you can kind of see the little habits that are trying to stop that free fall from actually taking place, where you're falling, 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 and there's nothing and no need for anything to catch you, because truth is what's living here. Um, Transference in another dimension of being, from separate self sense to wholeness, the universal. And that's actually what's living this life right now. And it's just in time that the me got built up, and it seems to take time for it to be built back down and be seen through. Even if there is a grace of great deep seeing, it takes time for that to then work its way throughout the body mind and be embodied here in speech and action and within life and relationships, right? That's the continuous journey of the imminent becoming living here. All right. Well, warm wishes to you as always. Take good care.